What's the...
Blue light means we're live.
Yeah, we're live.
Am I in this?
You're in this.
Okay, cool.
You don't have to go just now. I mean, if you're not ready, if we're still waiting for
Oh,
one
it's
person.
well, we're still waiting for a person, but I'll get the intro out of the way. So welcome, all of you viewers at home, all of you viewers who will watch this later, and to all of you who are here. Our first live cooking class in, I think I put 18 months, but it might have been a hair longer. And to do it here in the pharmacy is really special, obviously, to me. So we've got a lot of thank yous to do. I don't want to take up all the time. I'm Dan Bosley, owner of Keysville Pharmacy, owner of Cornerstone Jug and Gift. Hopefully we'll get to do one of these up there at some point, but we'll discuss that at a later time. Welcome to Carriage House Cooking School. So Chef Curtiss, Barrett Miller,
yep,
as well. Charlie from Grow Trends. 80K Action is in the house as well. We want to give a huge shout out to them for helping coordinate this. Great not-for-profit to collaborate with. And our biggest thank you, my biggest thank you tonight, will go to CDPHP, who has been integral in grant funding for special projects like this. So to be able to put a daily farmers market in a store is pretty unique. It's pretty special, but it becomes just another department without the support of people like CDPHP. With their support, with tonight's programming, with being able to live stream this and to reproduce it, we're going to be able to share that with a much broader audience and hopefully get a lot more value out of it than in previous years. So CDPHP, yay, go team. Here's your hat. We've got your signs around. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dan. So I just wanted to welcome everybody and those who are here, those who are online. Thank you very much. I'm Chef Curtiss Hemm from the Carriage House Cooking School. This we were trying to calculate is my 6th or 7th class in association with 80K Action and the pharmacy. And it's a fun collaboration, and it puts food and nutrition where it should be, in your local community with those that need it the most. And it's always an honor to do these events. And then with me tonight is Barrett Miller, who helps out at the Carriage House and collaborates in other projects with us. She is a nutritionist. Yeah, I was just I was fumbling for the right title. And come on in, welcome. And I too would also like to thank Dan for the vision, the leadership, and I know it's a collaboration with 80K Action, and Brittany and Kim G, Kim L, Kim, all the other Kims in the world, right? Thank you, Kims across the country and beyond. Because there was a lot of emails going back and forth, and I think it was all the Kim G, right? Yeah. So thank you very much, and to CDPHP, again, thank you very much for making this happen, and also having the vision. So I just want to welcome everybody, and we're going to get started. It's a very informal event, and I want to treat it like that. So if you are watching online and you have a question, those chats and those comments are being monitored. Ask, raise your hand, say, I have a question, stop please. Then the whole world stops, we answer your question, and that's how it moves, right?
And we can have some interruptions. The store is still open for another half an hour.
Yep.
So those of you at home, bear with us. Those of you here, if you see us moving around or finagling a little, it's because we still are open for business and trying to accommodate our normal business while trying to bring this tonight as well.
Yeah, and one request I have is just silence your phones. If you're at home, don't silence your phone. It's totally cool, right? So, and then we're going to get right down to brass tacks here and talk about the business at hand, which is food. It's about CSA shares, about how to manage CSA shares, about how to cook through a CSA share. And I thought it was important to involve Barrett because I think there's more than just cooking and flavor. I think if you've made the choice to support local agriculture, which is CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. It's not just in quotes, it does directly affect your local community. So when you keep money in your community, right, open land stays open, farms stay in business, people get employed, and then young farmers find places to work and then move on to do their own farms. And I think that's critically important. And I think the whole 2020 year showed how important local food was to all of us. And I personally, I just think it's critical. I can't imagine not using local food, both for quality, freshness, longevity of food, but also I have a farm. We grow hay and trees, so it's a different type of farm. But hey, it takes a long time to grow a tree, so don't laugh, right? Literally takes 150 years to grow an oak. So it's just important. And if you want to have open space, and I'm a big passionate believer in open space. So if you want to have those things, you have to support your local community. Otherwise, it's just going to be developed, or it's going to go abandoned. And we already have enough wild space in the Adirondacks. We need the valleys like this and places to be in existence. So for me, I think it's important to talk about types of CSA shares. So again, community-supported agriculture. The very root of that was the fact that you used to be able to buy shares of a farm. Okay, so this goes back. Now I feel like I'm back at New England Culinary Institute in the Necky days and the era of Vermont. Very, very local food-oriented education practices. So community-supported agriculture, the way that began was simply you would buy a share of a farm and you would get whatever your share was. So if there were 100 members of a farm, you would get 1/100th of that harvest. You also took 1/100th of the risk of that farm. And I think that's one type of farm share that's very hard to find nowadays. I think what we find now are spend down CSAs, where you basically put up front monies. The farmers then are not in a cash strap position and they can go buy seed, which is incredibly expensive. Trust me, I'm just putting fields back in hay. It's incredibly expensive. The work, the fuel, everything that's involved with that. So they're getting the money up front and they're able to grow things and be supported without the financial pressures that exist had that money not been there. So most of what you find now is a spend down type CSA that offers generally like a 10 or 15% discount for future purchases. So it's, hey, you're making 10% on your money. That's not a bad gig, right? It's a good deal. So stock market historically 11%. You're getting 10%. You're supporting local. It works. So I believe we're working with White Rainbow Farms out of Peru, New York, and Tangle Root Farms out of Essex, New York. And I just wanted to kind of bring up, I actually went to White Rainbow Farms this morning and purchased a share. I wanted to find out what a share looked like. I wanted to show you kind of what a share is, how it comes, and this is it. It's a bag of tricks. So this is a share that most people get. And at first, for people who may not be overly comfortable with the cooking process, but they like the idea of having local foods, this is a pretty intimidating moment in a CSA share's life, okay? This is when it's this big, ugly monster and it's going to eat you. It's really not going to do that, but you have to unpack this, and that's kind of the very first step. You have to kind of look at this, and this is, we've got some cucumbers. We've got, I'll let you call out what these things are. Green beans?
Yeah. Summer squash. More summer squash.
The unknown vegetable, which I know what it is, I'm just pretending.
Kale.
Kale and chard.
A mix of things.
A mix of things. We've got a lot of mixed basil and whatnot. There's some radish greens in here. So this is kind of a hodgepodge bag, huh? Mixed bag. It's literally a mixed bag of things. We all kind of know what that is, right? That's an onion, right? We don't know what these are. These are one of my favorite things in a CSA share. We've got some, what do you call those? What's the difference between?
Sugar snap peas?
Sugar snap peas, right?
And a snap pea?
And a snap pea or a snow pea. What's the difference?
Sweeter.
There we go. Peppers, jalapeno, monster
My gosh.
zucchini.
Holy cow.
Still viable though. It hasn't hit the point, I don't think, of banana bread yet. But lots of jalapenos. There's lots of basil in here, loose. So again, this is like a really intimidating thing for people.
Is it true that,
Huh?
true that jalapenos are the most offensive pepper? Because they get jalapeno face.
Wow. Wow. So Dan is selling bad dad joke books next door. That was awful. That was, wow. Wow, I had no idea where
I
you're
was
going with
waiting
that.
for like a scientific fact or something. And
Yeah,
Bam.
bad dad moment. So yeah, so there's just a ton of basil in here. And this, it's
that's a
fragrant.
lot.
It's very fragrant.
Smells amazing.
That's
Carrots.
a ton.
Smell amazing. One of my favorite scents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can smell it. It's all through here. So green peppers, some radishes, some more basil, some cilantro. You know, and not all CSAs come in a bag like this. So, like I said, I just wanted a very authentic experience. So there's a little bit of cilantro, which is great. There is all of our basil.
This also saves a lot of plastic waste too.
It
Opposed
does.
to getting it all at the grocery store when everything's bagged individually.
And you're making one-stop shopping.
Yeah.
So, having had a very egregious carbon footprint in my past life, I try to only walk to work, which doesn't, it's not far because it's like literally right across my driveway. So, it's a start. But my goal was to work from home and not be on that road. So, radishes, and I'm just going to cut the tops off. You can use the tops for a lot of different things if you want. I choose nay. But so that's it. That's like kind of the first step here is unpacking. Now you could compost all that stuff if you wanted to. So normally I would not open this up on a cutting board that I was going to cook with because that's dirt, and the French chef in me says, no, don't do it. So so this is the process. This is the share, and at first glance, it's kind of, you know, I'm used to getting things in pretty packages and things like that. So you have to kind of get used to this. But at the same point, everything's viable here. So this zucchini, you know, you can polish that off and dirt free, right? Same with the peppers, same with the onions. The onions, again, it's intimidating. And now all of a sudden you have a showroom quality onion. And so one of the things that some farms do is they off-put this type of labor to the CSA shareholder, right? So that saves farm labor, it saves expense, and it saves processing. So so you might want to just check, if you're not comfortable with that, just check as to what your CSA, your farm does in that sense, and you know, and find one that suits you. I think, quite honestly, I think there's a kind of a bookend approach to these two. And I don't know the relationship, and maybe somebody, I'm not going to just throw away a knife here, but it's like a pointer. But there's Tangleroot Farm out of Essex, and then there is the White Rainbow Farm out of Peru. I think Tangleroot does do a lot of plastic, is that correct? Do they package everything neatly?
So
I'm not sure.
I don't know if they do, but I think this was something with, and this is great for customers, for people who are looking to purchase. And I just found this out from our auditor from the Department of Ag. So when a farm manipulates a vegetable in any way, shape, or form, so puts it in a plastic bag, puts it in a plastic container, they actually become a packager, not just a grower. So it requires a special license, which is what we have for licensing here, which is why we have a 3-bay sink now. It's the only way we can sell bulk food. It's a small kitchen processor, I think it's called.
20C?
Yeah, 20C.
Yeah.
You know, but I think don't be discouraged by that. A lot of the farms now are not doing the packaging because of that, because they are looking for it. So
It's an added cost, it's an added expense, it's an audit that has to go on. So again, this was underneath this. So don't be discouraged, just get comfortable with how you want your food to be and go from there, you know. But it's pretty inexpensive. This share, I want to say all in $33, not a bad investment at all. So if you think of what you get for $33, I mean, a tomato in the grocery store is incredibly expensive.
So you don't have to sign up for the whole summer? You can go
I'm not going to answer for any given
Okay.
farm. I know Jordan at Farming It next door to me, you can buy garden box, right? You can buy fruit box, garden box, so on and so forth.
I like this one.
I emailed them at 3:30 this morning because I was up thinking about this event and kind of polishing my approach and said, hey, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to use your food. Can I just stop by and buy a share? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Good.
Very nice people. Very nice people. I was
They are
very,
nice. They are
absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So very happy I did that. And they're right in my, they're 4 miles from my house. So that's pretty cool. So I don't know what their approach is. You have to look, you have to call them. It's, I don't even know the website. So, but anyway, this brings me to kind of the strategy of a CSA. It's all unpacked now, right? So this is from some stuff I purchased, so I knew I had it on hand. I've got some hot spring mix. I've got some basil from another. I just bought this arugula here from Juniper Hill Farm from the pharmacy because I couldn't find fresh arugula earlier. So that's one of my favorite greens. High nutritional property for women in that because it is, pop quiz,
I don't.
anti-estrogen. There's anti-estrogen properties in arugula.
Okay.
That's because I deal with breast cancer. Anyway,
You know what it's called in England, right?
rocket. Yep. Other things too, like, get comfortable. Some places, there's nothing wrong with this. Well, obviously there's visually something wrong with this carrot compared to this carrot, but, it still cooks. Like this dog will hunt, this carrot will cook. So all things, this is my life in a restaurant. This is what we do. We walk into a walk-in cooler every single day, right? And we play this game. And we have to kind of strategize as to how we're going to process what vegetables and what meats and what fish are going to play nice together, right? And then how are we going to make the most money out of this? How are we going to, let's take profit off the board, how are we going to maximize our return on investment in this, right? So that's maximizing our yield in that. That's maximizing our nutritional components of that. That's maximizing our flavor components of this, which is where that's kind of what I want out of this. And then maximizing the total investment. I just spent, $600 a summer on a share, and I want to maximize that. So putting foods up, things like that. So anyway, this stuff at first glance might look rough, but it'll cook down, and heat does the same thing as evaporation. So this is just from evaporation today. Heat will do the same thing here, and then we'll cook it down, and we'll have all these great greens to deal with. So that's one approach. So anyway, I want to strategize. I want you to look in your packets and then just kind of take an approach to getting past the stuff everywhere, okay? So the first thing I did, obviously, I did it right in front of you, was I opened up the bag, the CSA, and I sorted the bag, okay? I put like items together. So I've got some herbs over here, right? I subconsciously kind of grouped my carrots with tomatoes because I think they're both sweet and I think they can play well together, right? Peppers are over here. I kind of go greens together, peppers. The only thing I really would have done is probably match those. So I've got snap peas here and green beans here. So I probably would have put those together. Although this in reality probably goes with that because it takes a little bit longer to cook. And then cucumbers could kind of come over here with the herbs as well. So anyway, that's how I visually look at this, and that onion goes with that onion. And then it allows me to kind of just framework my approach to this. So I'm looking at this from a straight up culinary standpoint. What do you see?
I feel like you just kind of described it. Like the greens are together. These taste sweeter and have, I don't know, like the cruciferous are over here.
Yep.
I don't know what else.
And cruciferous is anything in what family?
Like,
Cabbage, right?
yeah, cabbage,
Broccoli,
spinach,
cabbage,
broccoli.
right?
Yeah.
So this and this are in the same family, right? Kind of, I think.
I would say those, yeah.
Yeah, arugula. I'm not sure where arugula would be. It's closest. Anyway, nutritionally, that's not my gig.
It is
But-
cruciferous.
Is it?
Yeah.
Nice.
for dinner.
Learned that.
I see a lot of phytonutrients.
I do too. So then would you cook something? Is there anything here that you would leave raw? Like absolutely, positively raw?
Tomatoes.
You don't necessarily have to, but
What's the best way? What's the best way to eat a tomato?
raw,
Raw.
to get the most nutrients. But things like broccoli and sometimes kale and arugula, they have a higher antioxidant compound when they are cooked, specifically steamed.
Nice.
How about a cucumber? Raw versus cooked.
I would say raw.
I can't really think of,
I'm a raw. I don't like cooked or
but I can't think of a.
I would
when
say
you would cook a cucumber.
definitely
Pickling.
raw.
Cucumbers are really good with salmon cooked, lightly sauteed.
lightly sauteed. Yeah.
Salmon.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But from a nutritional standpoint, I would say raw just because cucumbers are so good for hydration because there's so much water in them. And if you cook it, it would take out the water. Just throwing in my 2 cents.
Hey, you're the nutritionist.
That's right. That's right. That's why you're here. So there's just different ways to approach this. You know, I look at this and I compare these items here. If you want to hand me a zucchini, that'd be great. From a culinary standpoint, I favor the smaller vegetable. They're going to be more tender. They're actually going to have a little bit higher yield per weight because they have less seed pockets in them that you have to deal with, because once we cut these open, you're going to see that they're completely different structure. Not that these are bad. These are going to be great. And there's a way to get rid of that, but then you have to figure out what to do. You're not paying for this by weight though, so that's a big difference. If you went in and bought this at a grocery store and it was by pound and you bought this one over this one, I'd say you're absolutely crazy, right? But in a CSA share, you're not paying by weight, right? So it's 1 unit, 1 unit. So you're getting a higher yield on this compared to this, not by weight, but just by overall size. So if you're feeding a family of 8, that might be a better deal for you. Might take a little bit longer to cook than this one, and you might not want to eat this one raw, or this one raw, or this one you can. So in one of the dishes that we're going to do today, we're actually just going to slice this up raw and eat it. So yeah, so I'm just kind of looking at this. So again, I kind of wrote down my strategy, and again, this is what I do every single day that I cook. I just kind of go through. So I sort my food, I inspect it. I'm inspecting things for damage. So like when we go back to this group right here, there was one piece that really caused me a little bit of concern. This one, where was it? There was one really tore up piece of greens, and it just looked like it had been bug eaten. So that one, I would just, you know, it doesn't pass my initial quality, but there are things that I can do with this. I can take this rib right out of here, right? And I can take some ground pork and I can make a pot sticker filling, and I can take and fill that and wrap it around there and then steam that, and I've got a casing for a pot sticker. Same with all of this stuff. It works beautifully in that sense. So instead of having the high calorie of a dough wrapper, you can actually use this. You can slice the zucchini and do the same thing and use that as a wrapper as well. So I just kind of look at that, inspect it for quality. Obviously, right? Glaring difference between the two. So this one has to have something done to it, either in prep or in storage, to make it not rot any faster. So anytime you have an open wound like this on a fruit or a vegetable, it's just going to cause it to rot that much faster. So it's like having a soft spot on a potato, and if you throw a soft potato or a potato with a spot in a bag of potatoes that don't have spots, well then guess what? That potato is going to rot every other potato in that bag. So you just want to process that and inspect it. I do a lot of touching, tasting, smelling. Just, you know, where are things at in terms of food? A snap pea doesn't have much of an odor. An onion does. You know, you can always tell the heat of an onion by how it smells. So the stronger the onion, the hotter the onion, in my book at least. And same with a radish. The more a radish smells, the hotter it's going to be. But yeah, that's just, I tend to inspect it, and then I just work through a process of cleaning it, wiping it down. Sometimes I wash. So a vegetable like this, a radish, I would soak in ice cold water before I took it out, dried it on paper towels, put it in a plastic bag or a container in the fridge. If it was open in a container like this, I would put a damp towel over it, because radishes dry out really, really quick. And that's actually the look that you see on that radish. So if I were to get a paper towel,
How handy is that new kit, that new sink?
I was just thinking the same thing when I went over there. So if I sit here and clean this, right, and I hydrate that skin, well, that radish looks pretty attractive as far as radishes go, right? It's not like I'm asking it out on a date. But you take the two side by side, and again, this is where large grocery stores make things attractive, is they clean and polish them and whatnot. And so we're making a conscious choice to kind of bring this into our kitchens, and then we're going to work with this. So if that makes sense. So anyway, the next process is to obviously trim, wash, store. So if I'm going to trim things, or if I'm going to store a radish, I'm going to wash it. I wouldn't do anything to the peppers. I would let those be. So we'll put these back in our bag. I don't think I need one. Here, I'll let you run the bag.
How do you determine when to wash something before storing it or not? Because I probably wouldn't have washed the radishes before storing them.
I guess I want to have it ready to use.
Okay.
In some way. You know, a pepper is a little less of a concern to me.
Okay.
You know, it's pretty easy to clean, but there's a lot of dirt stuck on that radish. And so for me, I would want to wash that. I'm just looking at the dirt that's
Would
here.
that make it last longer if you washed it?
Not necessarily, except that you're going to hydrate it. So it's like taking celery that's kind of, right?
Yep.
Putting it in ice water,
Yep.
and that rehydrates, because the vascular system, I can cut into this, and the vascular system of that radish is still functioning. It's still going to pull moisture in, which is then going to firm up the fibers of the radish, and you're going to have a crunchy radish. So
does your wash habit, I'm guessing, obviously change based on where you get it from? Obviously, these are from CSA, so you know that it was grown locally. Hasn't been touched, it hasn't been waxed, it hasn't been... So, for
all
those people
food.
who can't get it, if they're going to a grocery store, would you wash your green peppers before you...
I was actually going
Always.
to comment on this too.
yeah, go ahead. I always would.
I
From a
was going
culinary
to
standpoint,
say
yes.
absolutely, just because this, you're almost just kind of washing off the dirt and anything, any kind of, whatever this bag touched, whatever. But in the grocery store, you're talking about a vegetable or fruit that's went from California to upstate New York. It's traveled, it's been in airplanes, whatever. And has pesticides, chemicals, all these nasty things that you don't want to eat. And this stuff just has dirt. So...
Well, it's dirt and it has human hand contact on it,
Yeah,
right?
that kind
so
of, like,
they're not
germs
wearing
and-
gloves harvesting, right? So there's a human element to this that is a concern to me. So almost everything that I buy gets washed and processed, right? So it gets washed and sanitized. Whether I do it now, if this is just going to go into a pan in the bottom of my fridge and just sit there for 2 or 3 days, I'm not going to wash the zucchini until I'm actually ready to use it, right? The jalapenos, I'm not going to wash. I might even, in fact, be bold enough to put them like that with the snap peas, with the green beans until I'm ready to use them, you know, because there really isn't a lot of dirt. But if I look in this and I find a lot of dirt, then I'm certainly going to wash that. A lot of times too, what I do, so for me, it's a process of trim, wash, dry, store, and then pre-prep. So if I know that on Thursday, excuse me, if on Thursday I've got taxes to do in the morning, I've got to cut hay in a field, and we're going to have 2 hours as a family together from 5:30 to 7:30, and I have to get dinner done at that same point in time, I'm certainly, during my process of this, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to trim out my green beans after they're washed and soaked, and they're going to be in some container ready for me to use. So when all I want to do is do charred green beans with garlic and onion, all I have to do is pull out the green beans and throw them in a hot pan, and they're done. Because that's part of my planning process. I've identified how I'm going to use those vegetables for the week. And I can tell you that planning is everything. And we used to have, go ahead.
There's a spray wash thing that's for washing fruits and vegetables. Are you familiar with those?
I am, I just don't use them. I use the sink and lots of water, and that's it for the most part. And so there's no sanitizing effect of what I do. I just tend to wash off that, you know, there's elements that, it's like cleaning a mushroom that I pick in the woods, you know, it's the same thing. You know, a deer might have done something on that mushroom, I don't know, right? But I'm protecting myself against deer, whatever, right? Oh dear, right? Yeah, so these are pretty clean. I did wash these ahead of time.
You don't need any of the greens, right?
I don't think so, not for today, no. And I think we can put these away. So, and then tomatoes, I try not to touch a tomato until I'm ready to use it. You know, that's just a fundamental thing that I learned from my family in the Midwest was once you pick a tomato, set it on a windowsill, do nothing with it until you're ready to cook it. And it'll treat you right. We'll actually leave the tomatoes out. Sorry, my bad.
You're good.
And then the, you know, the basil and stuff, I would actually wash. And this is, I mean, I'm just telling you, this is pretty, that's pretty righteous basil.
Would you wrap it in a wet paper towel?
I would. So here's how I store basil. So I wash this one. I'm a big fan of these really cheap, and again, it's not the greenest thing in the world, but also I was traveling today, so I'm just gonna chalk that up as do as I say, not as I do. This is how I store my herbs, all of them. I store them like a little bouquet of flowers, and I wash them, I shake them off like so, and then I wrap them in a paper towel. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put this towel out and I'll put the herbs on to drain, and then I'll pick it up and then I'll just wrap it around, tuck that end in so the most of the water is there on the bottom, give it a little squeeze, put it in a bag, right? Because refrigeration is evaporation. So if I just leave this out in my refrigerator, it will soften up and it will not come back, okay? So refrigeration, evaporation. So the other thing I do in my own fridge, I leave a little air pocket in there, and what you'll see is you'll see the respiratory aspect of this. This will actually fog up and it's breathing, and it's got plenty of fuel to it. Another thing you can do too is if it's been like a day or two before your herbs have been harvested, cut the ends off the bottom. That's kind of anything that you want to store so it can wick fresh moisture and it doesn't have scar tissue on that.
I put my basil in water and it's got roots on it already.
Yeah, well, you did that with me last year, Charlie. We were growing purple basil vines. So, and then this basil I would actually wash, you know, because it's got dirt on it, you can see. And a lot of times if it's a low growing herb and there's a heavy rain, then the bottom's going to have dirt on it, you know. But again, it's dirt. And if it's an organic farm, it's a good dirt, you know. It's not like...
Not highly processed dirt, essentially.
Right, and so there's an element. I think we always want our food to be overly clean, and certainly as a chef, you know, serving in the public, I do too. But at the same point, when it comes to my house, I'll go out and pick a mushroom in the woods. I'll brush it off lightly with a paper towel. You know, I don't know if there's dirt on the bottom. I mean, a little grit's fine with me. You know, it just toughens up my teeth, and. But again, you know, it's everybody's comfort level is their comfort level. But this is the process I go through, and I try to prep everything. So again, this would go into, I don't know if I even brought those, if I brought more bags or not. I thought I did, but anyway, more plastic bags. Yeah, so I would simply just, and these are, sorry, these aren't Ziplocs. These are just, because I've learned Ziplocs are incredibly, zipper type bags are incredibly expensive. So again, I would take this loosely, put it in there. It would be washed, and I would have a paper towel to go with that. I can't obviously bundle that, so I would just simply wad up a moist paper towel, slightly damp. I would put it in there. I would spin that around. I would grab one of the things that nobody knows what to do with. The twisty ties. Oh yeah, that's what those are, right? And I know I'm sitting here struggling with this one. And then that's how I would store basil. So, and I've learned in my family, once something goes in a drawer in the refrigerator, it's gone. Nobody opens the fruit drawer or the vegetable drawer. Only the meat drawer gets opened, right? So, it's very funny.
Or do you want this in there?
Yeah, we'll put it back in the share. That's fine. So anyway, that's how I process the share, and I just kind of I go through and look at it. Now the other part is meal planning. So a proper plan, right? So this is, I used to work with a lot of ex-Marines, and so proper planning prevents blank poor performance. Okay, so there's lots of P's. I think it's the 7 P's. So in my world too, if I'm not planning for use and I'm not planning for profitability or return or maximization, then I haven't done my job effectively. So if I'm going to go and take monies and invest them in groceries, the thing that gets me Probably the most furious is when I have to take something and throw it away or put it in compost that it never should have been. So if I trimmed out and cleaned tomatoes and washed and dried greens and trimmed the cabbage or sliced the cabbage and nobody in my family eats it and I have to throw it out, that's very bothersome to me. You know, I take that personally, and it shouldn't happen. Sorry. It shouldn't happen that way. Like, we should not be wasting food like that. So I plan, and that comes down to meal planning. So a CSA you get once every 7 days. So you have 7 days to deal with it. So most people say it's a 6-day plan because on that 7th day you get new foods. And all the foods that exist in the previous 6 days are gone and you shouldn't have them. So I should do this in my hand, but I'll sweep it up after. And I'm a freak about cleanliness too. So I always have a bucket to clean. So, and those are bamboo reusable paper towels. So anyway, this is kind of this is how I would plan a menu. I'm very photo driven. I actually do put this stuff up in my kitchen because my family then wants to eat it. And it's not just something on a written board. Okay, so I actually like pictures. And I did this menu based on what I had on hand. So in the CSA, let's say we had arugula. Arugula does not last, okay? It has a very short shelf life, especially once it bruises. And if you're buying arugula in a grocery store, you know immediately, yeah, I didn't get a color one. I saved the color one for you guys. You know immediately when arugula's gone bad. It's got that kind of funky, pungent odor. And for me, the whole thing is off. I don't want anything to do with that. So we want to use arugula right away. So I had on hand a top round that I did sous vide and then seared. So this is a steak tagliata. So we're going to slice it like an Italian steak, which means sliced steak. And I generally serve this with a peppery green arugula, a little bit of olive oil, some salt, and then a little bit of shaved cheese. Okay? So if we take arugula and we take meat with that, notice what's not on the table. The starch, right? So we don't have carbohydrate. So are you familiar with the concept of the lean protein concept? And
What do you mean?
like in terms of using your own calorie, your own body fat to process the protein?
Yes.
Yeah, so why don't you go on that one? Because that's a huge one. A lot of people don't understand that about eating lean proteins. Like when you cut out a carbohydrate, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't really know what you're...
So it takes calories to process that, correct?
Yeah, so... I don't know. I don't really know. I feel
All
like
right.
you just kind of went over it.
I went over it, but I don't, but they don't know. Anyway, I like, this is how I eat now. I like not having a starch, and I used to always love a starch. I used to always love potatoes, rice, pasta, bread. Oh my God, I loved bread. So those things are like hardly exist in my life anymore, but I really love arugula and I really love meat. I really love tomatoes. I really love salt. I really love olive oil, and I really love shaved cheese. So I feel like I'm getting the best of all worlds now, minus those things. So if I have enough of this good stuff, I don't actually miss the carbohydrate. And then the benefit is, by matching this to this nutritionally, I'm burning more calories to synthesize that in a roundabout way.
Yeah, I see what you're
Right?
saying
So now I pick that up and explain
okay.
it better than I just did, because I just went, gone.
I don't exactly know a ton of the science behind it, but
My understanding...
basically, yeah, your body works harder to basically digest and turn that protein into amino acids than it would to digest like a carb.
Right.
Basically.
So my understanding is if you had 100 calories of lean protein, it takes 30 calories to process that.
Yeah.
Right? Where a carb, it just sits there.
It just
It's
kind of
100
sits
calories,
there.
100 calories.
Yeah.
Right? So you can do yourself a favor by eating that way. So anyway, I had this on hand. I had this. I figured, you know what? All this stuff is going to go nicely together. And there's a really quick meal, easy. And this is served anywhere from, you could reheat this, or you can serve it cold. It doesn't matter. And then if you're going to serve steak cold, a really good salt and olive oil are great friends, because the salt makes you salivate and helps you break down the coldness of the meat, right? So I will be honest, I've tempered this. I like to temper meats. I don't like to eat super, super cold meats unless I'm coming in for a quick lunch after working or something. So this is room temperature for the most part. So this is designed to get rid of all of this in one sitting. I would never pull meat out at room temperature, let it sit, and then put it back in. It's just not the healthiest thing in the world. And then we're going to use all of this. We might throw a tomato on there because, again, the great thing about a CSA share is you get to ad lib, right? And you get to play around. And just because a recipe says one thing doesn't mean you're actually going to do that one thing, right? Let's say that the zucchini was overgrown and we wanted to do carpaccio, but the summer squash was right on the money. Then we have a carpaccio of summer squash, right? And you just have to play around with that. Or if both of those were garbage and you're sitting there looking at that red cabbage, then you could chiffonade or thinly slice that red cabbage and throw some olive oil, salt, pepper, maybe go over to the pharmacy there and grab some sunflower seeds and maybe sunflower oil and some lemon juice and create a really great salad with that. So you just have to kind of learn to bob and weave. So anyway, the next one.
The meat.
Yeah.
I have a question about the meat. So you cook that ahead of time and then you,
So I cooked it sous vide, which means under, not in this bag, I cooked it in another bag, right? So I cooked it to 132 degrees. It's a top round.
how did you cook it?
I cooked it in a water bath. So
Water bath.
yeah, that's a really long conversation. I can explain that one after the fact.
Pull out your blender thing because it looks like they're really cool.
My blender thing.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh,
you
the
draw.
immersive.
Yeah, it literally is like a side.
Oh yeah. I get what you're saying.
Sits in a.
It's a
pot.
heat circulator, right? So now we're playing all sorts of things here, right? So imagine if I had a cooler and I filled it with water and this was an immersion circulator, right? So, and I programmed it to 132 degrees. It's going to be plus or minus 1/10 of a degree. This is in a plastic bag, seasoned maybe olive oil, salt, pepper, and it's cooking in that, right? For 4 hours. I take it out, I pat it dry, I sear it. Okay, and either we serve it right away or I let it sit to room temperature, then I chill it, then I bag it for storage, right? So this is in an anaerobic environment, so it can't oxidize. So its shelf life is extended for a week, week and a half, 2 weeks, right? Much longer than if it had been just open in the air, okay? And it stays juicy and tender. So the benefit of sous vide is I'm taking a really notoriously tough cut of meat, right from the rump section of a cow, right? And I'm making it very tender. And when you eat this today, you'll say, wow, that's amazing.
How do you spell that?
S-O-U-S, first word, V-I-D-E.
And there are a number of different companies, but it will be a great investment. I never did it before Chef Curtiss. I don't do it enough, but you can put an app on your phone, set it, walk away, you put it on a pot holder, trivet on your counter, walk away. It's not going anywhere. It's just circulating the water in a pot. So it's really, it's really unique, and it's the best tender, moist beef, meat, chicken.
Anything. You can make a ratatouille sous vide. So you could take that tough zucchini there with everything else, and you could throw it in a vacuum bag, and you can make a ratatouille. It's very much like a slow cooker, right? But it's very contained. So it reminds me of a French technique called poêle. So P-O-E-L-E-R, which is basically cooking in its own juice, right? You're not adding anything to it. You're just its own juice, and that's how it cooks. But that's pretty off topic. So we can talk after about that.
I do want to take one quick second to plug for our sponsor, CDPHP, and for the pharmacy with a PH. No starch, except for a little bit of sugar on the tomatoes. Really great meal for diabetics, pre-diabetics. One of the biggest expenses in healthcare today is insulin-type products. So really great idea, great presentation here tonight, and very appropriate.
Yeah, and so, I mean, whole nother side company, but a lot of the things that I design are components, and then the design to minimize insulin resistance. Just on a psychological level for me, I just don't always like that. I mean, trust me, if someone puts down a huge plate of roasted potatoes, I'm there, right? I'll pull a seat up to the table and have a conversation, right? I'm not gonna walk away from it, but when I actually cook for myself, I don't do that stuff anymore. I'm very, very focused on maximizing other flavors and matching textures and temperatures, which goes back to your meal plan. Again, if it's Tuesday night or if it's tonight and I need to make dinner and we're doing this presentation, everyone's sitting here looking at me like, with knives and forks. This is a really quick, easy dish to make and feed everybody. The work is done ahead of time, part of the prep process. And all I have to do is text my son, hey, pull the steak out, at 5 o'clock, we'll eat at 6:15, 6:30. and odds are he'll forget and we'll eat at 7:15, 7:30, right? But I've done my best part on that one. So Alec, if you're watching, I'm totally sorry. I just threw you under the bus. But anyway, I just think that's an approach. So that's that's a Monday night meal right there. Super, super easy. A Tuesday night might be a harvest flatbread because we've got some basil, we've got some tomatoes. Maybe we've got some, in my farm share, I get bread from Red Oak Food Company. So maybe I'm going to slice that up and put on a grill pan, or maybe just toast it and put some aioli, which I'm going to make here. I'm actually going to make aioli in a mason jar and show you how easy it is to make homemade sauce, homemade mayonnaise type sauce. And then, maybe I throw some greens on there, or if you got whatever you got, maybe some shaved red cabbage on there. Whatever it is, and you may cook nutritionally to enhance it. But again, it's something quick, easy, and maximizing that. So we're going to pull 2 of those tomatoes or something for a flatbread. On Wednesday, I might want to grill some chicken, but I need something to go with that, right? So I'm going to do this Zucchini Carpaccio. So we're going to take these really nice slender zucchini, we're going to slice them, and we're going to put those on a platter, and we're going to drizzle it with olive oil. So if you're familiar with carpaccio is thinly pounded red meat. I guess it was done after an Italian painter who used mostly red and white. So anyway, thinly pounded, and it's designed for really quick nibbles of food. So there's a local restaurant that does a great version of that, which I love. It's one of my favorite foods to eat. So I might just do this base of this really simple summer salad, eating raw zucchini, which people aren't normally they think they have to cook it. You don't have to. So we'll do that salad on a Wednesday night, maybe with some grilled chicken. I just did an episode of Facebook last night with Speedy chicken, like Speedy's from Binghamton area. And did that just laugh? You just laughed at my Speedies? No, we're not going there. We're not going there. No. So anyway, so that grilled chicken is really fantastic. And you might just want to have that, or maybe you want some grilled salmon or something else on that, something to go with that, maybe even a pasta. The next one is the idea of a raw tomato sauce. So again, eating tomatoes raw is nutritionally better for us, correct?
Yep.
Right? So the flavor, I also think, is better in the raw side of that. So you get all of the essence of a tomato. So if we were to cut this tomato open, I was right the first time. If I was to cut that tomato open, right, and you take a smell of that, we want all those fresh attributes of a tomato, and we want to make sure we capture those. And so the idea of a pre-cooked pasta, right, something that you do ahead of time while you're doing another dinner maybe, or you cook pasta and you have leftover, now you're making this fresh tomato sauce, and the only thing you have to do is chop up tomatoes, add it to the pasta with some olive oil, some of that nice basil we had, maybe a little garlic, maybe something else, and all of a sudden you've got this great, fresh, raw, it's 90 degrees out, nobody wants to have hot pasta, but you've got this great pasta salad, So that's a great way to use that up as well. And then we move into something, this has got some durability in the fridge, right? So you should get a basket in here, right? I could just see your window going. But anyway, right? So I'm leaving this outer skin on this the whole time it's in storage. And then when I go to use it, I'm going to get rid of that outer skin. That goes into compost for chickens or whatnot. And then look at how beautiful that is underneath. I might get rid of the first 2 layers. And then get into this. Now, the thing I love about red cabbage is even when it's sliced, it's durable. It's got longevity in a bag, in a container. And again, it will eventually kind of sheet over this light, dry exterior. All you have to do is add a dressing to that, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of lemon juice, and it really comes back to life quickly. So this has durability. So this is kind of later in the week. This is where we use this item. And I like this paper thin. This is a small one I bought. I just bought it at the store to show people what a mandolin is. But I would take a mandolin, I would use one of my professional ones, and I would just shave this thing paper thin, and I would toss that with maybe some tamari, which is like a Japanese soy sauce, maybe some sunflower seeds, red onion, maybe the cilantro we got in the in the share. So we're not having basil. Maybe we got cilantro. Maybe we got Thai basil, instead, and we use that up. But again, it's got durability, it can last. We're not worried about this going bad or softening up. The only thing we're worried about is how much room do we have in our fridge, because these do take up a fair amount of room in a fridge. And, from my end, ball cap. My
I
son.
was also gonna say, sorry
ahead.
to interrupt. You could also use that. I'm not sure if you mentioned this before, but you could also use this as like a wrap for something too.
Yep. Yep.
Like I know I use that. I use lettuce, cabbage often as like a wrap instead of like a tortilla or any kind of bread or anything.
I saw a lady doing pot stickers with zucchini, and she didn't want to have the wrappers, and so she was taking 3 strips of zucchini and putting them in a hexagon pattern, putting the pot sticker down and fold so there was no escape of
That's cool.
the meat, and then she was using that and she was steaming, so it wasn't really a pot sticker, but it was a dumpling, and at the end it's it got caramelized a bit.
And I think
So-
that crunch too would even be almost more satisfying than a tortilla or whatever,
Yep, I agree with you, and I also think you could just use that as a cup. You could use the lettuce as a cup, almost like the cooked chicken cups.
That's what I had in mind this whole time.
Yeah, I had a guest. We did a mushroom foraging class on Saturday, and she brought a cooler, and she was eating out of the back of her her vehicle, and she had these lettuce wraps, and I was like, oh my God, that looks so good. And it was a cooked chicken salad from a place up in Lake Placid.
I've
But
actually
like, what a great way to go travel. Just have a cooler full of good, healthy vegetables and foods.
Yeah, I've seen people also hollow out cucumbers, and you can do that. Green peppers,
Yeah, I
just cut them off, and then
got a patty pan squash the other day on my share, and we had leftover meatballs, and so I put the meatball in the patty pan with tomato sauce and the mozzarella on top, and we baked it. And it was fantastic.
no need for a spoon.
So anyway, so that's kind of like my Saturday, and then that brings me to kind of that's my Friday, and then Saturday is kind of the broccoli. We don't have broccoli today, right? So I like grilled broccoli with a walnut sauce. So the sauce is raw, it's walnuts, it's Dijon mustard, olive oil, salt, pepper, things like that. You puree it with a burr stick, one of these things, or in a blender. And then you put that with the grilled broccoli. So I might grill the zucchini, and maybe I add a little bit of Parmesan chunks to the walnut sauce so I get that pungency to go along with the zucchini, so it kind of makes it more Mediterranean in that aspect.
Something just to add on to that when grilling, you know how some people when they grill chicken or, steak, whatever, they worry about the carcinogenic, layer crust. With vegetables, they actually have a compound in them that kind of cancels that out, and it's not carcinogenic if you have a little bit of a char on your vegetable.
Nice, and that adds flavor.
Yep.
So I'm all in on that one.
Yep.
So anyway, that's kind of how I do this. Now I use a clipboard with a yellow legal pad, and I have scribbles, and I draw things out, and I'm a freak about this stuff. So what I offered you was not that approach. Actually, just a couple different meal planning sheets. So one is kind of designed graphically to get your kids involved with that. So if you're meal planning with kids, I think it's a great way to show them the economics of food. I think it's a great way to show them how to be involved in your local community. And sometimes this just works. There's a lot of white space on this sheet, So I just designed this morning around 4:15, and then the other one is more of a streamlined kind of what I call the adult version of that, which is just linear. And again, this is how my mind works. After I get through the scribble and the doodling, I kind of write it down like this. But again, this really, if you are raising kids, this is a great way to show where your money goes, where your investment in your community goes, and how this stuff goes here and everywhere else, and kind of away from Dan, no offense, but if you eat right, you stay away from you, for the most part. Knock on wood, right?
So, I'm glad you mentioned Dan. I just got confirmation. Brittany has joined us from 80K Action. We will be making that meal planner, this packet, available to anybody viewing. So I would say we can check.
It's in the comment section.
It's in the comments section?
Yep.
It's already in the comments section. Look at that. So there you go. I know it wasn't your intent because it's a basic planner, but I think I consider myself to plan very well. But I also think basic things to get started,
Absolutely.
Are very helpful. So
Yep.
it's out there.
And you can modify that any way you want. I mean, that's 2 versions that I did. Like I said, I literally sit down with the clipboard and did you have a question?
Yeah, there's a question in the chat. When do you do your meal planning? Is it right after you get your CSA?
Pretty much that day.
And do you have any essentials that you keep in your pantry to enhance the vegetables?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of hard rind cheeses. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of olive oil, I've been a big fan of Reber Rock's sunflower seed oil because it's local. I also lived in France where there's a lot of sunflower seeds. And that was a huge part of the economy in France, was the sunflower oil. So I'm a big fan of that. Salts, both kosher salt and lots of different finishing salts.
Available here at the pharmacy.
Yep. So this is one of the best local investments you can make. This stuff rivals any olive oil, anything that you're going to buy. This tastes amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and its price point is fantastic. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
So seasoning or dressings as opposed to cooking?
Say that again?
Or both?
I use it for everything.
Okay.
What's the heat point on it? Or how high can you?
I never consider that because you know what? In Spain, they cook with extra virgin olive oil and they bring it right to the smoke point. I never worry about that. So you're going to have a different opinion about that than I do, right? Because once you bring oil to a smoke point, it changes its nutritional value completely.
Yeah, it's no longer exactly a healthy fat at that point, but
Beats potato chip fat,
true.
right?
Beats a lot of other things too.
So
Yeah.
I
And
cook
would
with it.
I would tend to use that on salads, and I would tend to use avocado oil or something if I was cooking, eating it.
Right, but if I want to make a salmon, I want to brush it with sunflower seed oil, put crushed sunflower seeds, Dijon mustard, or fresh herbs on that. I'm not going to have a problem putting that under a broiler or putting it in an aggressive oven. It's not going to bother me. Now, am I going to take a scorching pan and I'm doing stir fry with sunflower seed oil? Probably not, just because, that's just not, we're going to change its flavor quite a bit. But if I'm going to saute up a vegetable really quick, I have no problem using sunflower, no different than I saute with extra virgin olive oil.
Okay.
So back to the question about what's in the pantry. Salt, oils, peppers. I love good cheese. This is Pecorino, so this is a sheep's milk cheese. We have lots of other good cheeses here. What did I do with... that's cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Asgard goat's cheese. I'm just going to tell you, like, I'm a groupie. I mention them all the time. I absolutely love the product. This is a hard rind Tome style cheese made with local goat's milk on an amazing farm. That is almost always in my pantry. I can't even imagine opening up a refrigerator in my house, and we have 5 because I run a cooking school, so I can say that. And almost every fridge has that, except for the one in my workshop, which just has other things. So
Yeah, so you can mention anything, but I will plug Asgard Farms is great.
North Country Creamery
is great.
Sugar House.
Sugar House is great. Myers cheese.
Oh, yeah.
I have at Cornerstone Drug is also a great option. So yeah, you can find whatever cheese you want, whatever dairy product you want or prefer, and you're going to be in good hands with all of those. So
Yeah, so from my end, it's it's things like that. I use Saratoga olive oil vinegars. I'm a huge fan of those vinegars, and if you follow anything I do on Facebook or online, that's a huge part of it, because that's salvation to me, right? That's not salvation, but makes me salivate. You know what I mean? The acid, the salt. We go back to those fundamental flavors. Sweet, sour, salty, bitter. I have tons of pickles on hand. I'm a pickle junkie. I'm a cornerstone junkie. I love good pickles. So those are the things I have on hand. And then I find things that I have that also aren't food. They're just things that make me love cooking. I have this crock that I got from a flower arrangement from Little Farmhouse Flowers. A local artist goes to auctions and she finds me all these old vintage cookware sets, and it just changes the tactile style of cooking that I do, and it makes me want to cook. When I look at this arrangement right here, which is heavy, and I brought it here, that makes me want to cook. You know what I mean? It makes me excited for the experience of that. So those are big things for me. And then I don't know if you keep anything on hand in particular.
I was definitely going to say a good Parmesan cheese. I was also, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, I forgot.
I keep a
I'll say it if I
variety
think of it.
nuts,
Yep.
walnuts.
Oh, yes.
Flower seeds.
Oh yeah, I should say sunflower seeds are everywhere around me.
Yeah.
I feel like a chipmunk at times. So,
do check out the dry food bulk bins here, because there is an assortment of nuts,
Yep.
grains, quinoa pastas here at the pharmacy. Cornerstones they're working their way in. But yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's kind of how I approach menu plan. I go by durability of goods, flavor arrangements, things that work well together. And then I just kind of sit down and I also look at what I have. So I also want to go through my freezer because a lot of times we put stuff in our freezer and we forget about it. And I think a great goal is to once a week find 2 things in your freezer and pull it out and use it, right? COVID taught me how much I actually have in my freezers. It was amazing. And we ate like kings and queens for a year because, I mean, again, I run a cooking school, so I got all sorts of stuff. But we had 3 lambs on hand that we had to eat through. And we had just all sorts of, we had like Mangalista pig, we had salmons left and right. I had all sorts of stuff that you just challenge yourself, you know, what goes with this stuff. So I wrote down a lot of things that focus on just vegetables. But again, here's a great way. If you pulled out a roast, and a lot of the times we have local meats here, if you pulled out a roast, what can you serve that with? You know, what of these things is most appealing to you to make that work? You know, I think ratatouille is a great vegetable preparation. It's a long stewed vegetable, and you can throw a lot of different things in ratatouille. And it has this wonderful kind of sweet background note from tomatoes, onions, and peppers. And then you finish it with lots of different vegetables. I finished mine with summer squashes.
I was thinking about these. You could even throw.
Yeah,
you could
a
even
hot
get
pepper.
crazy. Yeah.
Go crazy with a hot pepper.
Oh yeah.
But again, and you know, you could even throw some saffron or some other herbs in there that come along. But it's just, how does this stuff accentuate what you already have and what you're doing? And then some people, you know, some people are busy and they're time poor, and that's a real concern. So they grab something, but don't grab everything processed. Have something raw. Have something, you know, where you're going to plan that. And you know, I'm guilty. I'll buy rotisserie turkey breast sometimes. It happens. You know, that's life. But then I try to back that up with, you know, 4 or 5 vegetables in a base note that goes with. So again, so beyond that, let's talk about how good food can be. And we're going to start making some stuff here. And the very first thing, I'm going to make this stuff. We're going to set it out there. Plenty of time for pictures, plenty of time for photographs. And at the end, you guys can kind of nosh on some stuff, okay? I'll do the steak tagliata last so that when I open this up, the bloom of color pops the most. So we'll do that one last. So I'm just going to set that one out of the way conveniently at my height. I do want to show you a really quick sauce, and I have a lot of fun making this. We've done this 3 or 4 times now on our live shows. And this is just a simple wide mouth mason jar. And this is the aioli recipe that's in your packet. And so if you're at home, I don't know if you have, it's in the comment section, they said. So we're going to go to the second instruction set. So everything is in here. And a couple key things about this recipe. Notice the separation of ingredients. The top is the oil. The bottom is the lemon juice, the garlic, and the egg. It's really important to have the egg on the bottom, okay? Because that's going to be what we emulsify the oil to. So we're taking a fat, we're going to bond it to a protein. The acid, the lemon juice, helps us do that. And this is just a really fun thing to do. I wish I could do this 24 hours a day, because I like taking something that looks gross and making it look amazing. So what happened was really simple, okay? This is the same thing as hollandaise sauce. It's the same thing as mayonnaise. Is we took the protein from the egg and we made it play well with the fat from the olive oil, okay? So 2 things that naturally want to separate. We saw this thing. I brought this thing from Halleco Road to here. It was all blah, 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 messy. Then it settled down and they didn't want to play nice together. So the oil was up on top. So now everything is suspended in a sauce where it's whole is better than the individual pieces. Okay, so now this is a great aioli. This will last 7 days. I go by the 7-day fresh rule. with this. I'll stretch it to 14 in my house because I know what I'm doing. And I'm not saying you don't, I'm just saying I'm comfortable with that, but I generally go 7-day fresh. And so now you have this beautiful thick aioli that you can use as a spread on a tomato sandwich. So if you get a nice loaf of bread, you toast that up, you've got that amazing dressing. And the only downside of the one blender I brought is that it doesn't come apart on the base. So
Immersion blender at home. Could you do the same with a fork?
you can do the same with a fork or a whisk. So the thing here is mechanical advantage, okay? So the way that this spins, and it has two blades, here that spin around, and it cuts the droplet size so small, much smaller than you could ever do by hand, right? And it's those individual droplets that then stop coalescence. It stops the oil from bleeding back into itself, like water can go up through coalescence. It stops that from happening. And so you can do it with a whisk. So the more pieces you have, so difference from a spoon to a fork, number of times. The number of interaction points you have with that device to the food itself, breaking up the droplet size. So if you did it with a whisk, it would be better. Go ahead.
So, everybody always talks about using caution when eating raw eggs. Is the salt and the acid helping to preserve it or cook it a little and keep it safer? I mean, do you make sure you have the freshest egg that you use in it?
Yes, I mean, you can get eggs that are, more standard. You can buy egg product. I have hens at home. This is a farm fresh egg. I know exactly what my hens eat. I know exactly the lifestyle that they have. I'm very comfortable with that. I don't have the same fear. I eat, over easy eggs. I don't have that fear. So if you are concerned about that, then certainly you coddle an egg. So you could take that egg, you could put it in boiling water for, up to 30 seconds, coddle it that way, break out, put it in there, let it cool. But at the end of the day, it's a risk for sure. It's not one that I'm concerned with myself. So, and I hate this part of it because it's loud, but it's so much easier to put it back in the jar than it is to put it in Dan's sink. So, with nice hot water. So, I'll put that there for now. So anyway, this is a wonderful condiment, and I think it's really well balanced. We're going to have this with some other vegetables. You could do crudité. So you could take all these vegetables, a little salty, but
Yeah,
again,
that's good.
it's going to go with the sugars of other things. So again, sauces, like you taste a sauce. So notice I dipped once. I'm not George Costanza. I'm using the other side and dipping. They're never supposed to be eaten by themselves. So when you taste a sauce and you say, oh my goodness, it's too salty or it's too acidic, just think of where it's going to go and what it's going to go with, and that changes everything. So when I'm done with that, that goes in the fridge, like so, done deal.
So to encourage our viewers to continue watching, are we going to work on smell-o-vision and taste-o-vision for future classes?
Possibly,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So
Or
stay
you
with
could,
us. Stay with us.
or we could put more chairs in here.
Gotcha.
And you can use
Right.
it on the flatbread.
You can use it on anything you want, yes, but on the flatbread, it's great. So, so that's one of the things I would do. A lot of times too in a CSA show, you do get a dozen eggs, and what do you do with those? I mean, we get, there's 3 of us in a house and we get 4 eggs a day, because for some reason my rooster doesn't lay an egg. We get 4 eggs a day, and we still can't go through all of our eggs. It's a lot. So, so that's going to bring us to the fresh pasta. Let's do the fresh pasta. Here's the bowl. Whoops. Whoa, 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 whoa. There's no countertop back here. All right, so let's just call this leftover pasta, right? And this is leftover pasta salad, okay? So we've got generic, all-purpose pasta. Healthy option? No.
Not the best.
All right, so what would you use instead?
I would probably use either a whole wheat, whole grain pasta.
Okay.
Or lentil pasta.
Or those are great options too. I really like the chickpea, the lentil pastas, yeah.
So there's a couple ways that we can do this. We can dice up our tomatoes small, right? Or we can use the blender in here again and make a sauce, which is my general preference of that. So in doing that, I'm just going to roughly prep. Notice I took the cores out of the tomato. and we're going to go for 2 large tomatoes. So what is it about tomatoes that makes them so good raw, nutritionally? What is the process of that?
Well, they have lycopene in them, and that's most red vegetables will have that, and that's great for your skin. It's also great for preventing things like cancer. Yep, great for vision. It's also great for your heart and lowering cholesterol. So lots of good things in tomatoes.
So I'm going to add, I had 2 somewhat medium tomatoes. This one is not the ripest of them all.
Also a ton of water in tomatoes.
Yeah.
Super hydrating.
Yep, and filling too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Would you take that basil that I wrapped up in the paper towel and tear some and put it in the bowl?
The one that you brought from
Yeah, the one I
house,
brought
right?
from the Carriage House. We can just hand tear that in there. One big thing too, I love to clean as I go. Do a fair amount, you know, about a cup. We'll make it nice because it's going to be raw. I also think to your question about, am I concerned about a raw egg? I'm more concerned about the sanitation of my board and the kitchen than I am about, you know, a particular product per se. So that's just me personally. And then, well, that's good. So we're gonna have some fresh cracked pepper.
You can smell it. It smells amazing.
I know.
The basil does, yeah. So we're
Smells
gonna add a little bit of olive oil. Everybody can see we're all good. A little bit of olive oil, so that's about 4 tablespoons, about a 1/4 cup. Great measuring technique. I could be in Italy and just use spoons. And then some salt. So I can let this sit, and the salt is going to pull out the juice from the tomato, okay? I can do it that way. And here's another great dish too. If you had leftover bread and you put it below this, and you put this on top and you let it sit for 3 or 4 hours at room temperature, and you threw that in a blender with some vinegar, you're gonna get salmorejo, which is Andalusian Gazpacho. Absolutely stunning dish. And you let the tomatoes seeping out their moisture soften all of that good crusty bread. It's a great dish.
So it's like a French bread cut up.
Yeah, like a sourdough bread or something like that. You know, when bread gets too old, right, and becomes toast bread, or it becomes gazpacho bread. So salmorejo is an Andalusian gazpacho, kind of a mountain gazpacho. So again, you can smell, this smells wonderful. So we're just gonna take our handy dandy, notice the deep bowl. I probably still got it on me. I'll shield you. So does it matter? So is it better to, so like I know garlic, and that's one thing we can put in here. Somewhere I have a clove of garlic floating around.
Yep.
Perfect. I know garlic has allicin, which is an antioxidant.
Yes.
Right? And that is best when it's lightly cooked, raw.
As gross as it sounds, raw, definitely. But it still is a very, very present when it's cooked.
I've learned recently that if you're going to use garlic, you should cut it up, mix it up, and set it aside for a while. Something changes in it, and you need to leave it like for 15 minutes.
That's my understanding too. It's the allicin, it's the antioxidant that activates.
Yep.
Right? And that's the best choice. So again, you know, we've got great local food. Time from farm to table is very important to me, right? And then you might as well do all the right steps. So the concept here is let's maximize the nutritional value of the food, which is also a big part of, in my opinion, the pharmacy, right? And the play on words is that. And so if you have a chance to step up and do a better thing by being a little bit more patient, just like when we teach people when they're cooking meats and fish, don't touch it, just wait. Like, be patient, put on some music, have a glass of wine or a beer, relax, you know, and just do the right thing. And it's just, cooking nutritionally isn't hard. and it maximizes, again, the potential of what your CSA share is. So I happen to like chunky tomato stuff, so I'm good there. And if my son had that, there's no way. He would have to have that fully pureed and done. So I want to slice some garlic up thin. So this is a really beautiful garlic clove or garlic head. It's super, super tight. It's very firm. It's growing one. I mean, you just tell this is like gorgeous garlic. So the way that I do this is you can either break the neck off, or I just kind of pierce in, twist, and then separate. And then I get the cloves. And I'll tell you, you say, I don't know, it's just the way you said it. It was kind of like raw garlic. I think it's a breath thing. I love the smell of raw garlic. I like it when my hands smell like garlic 4 hours after dinner. It's like a treat, you know, and it sure beats salmon. So it's, so again, you know, we're going to slice that up. We're going to let it sit for a bit. And go from there. And I just like it because fresh garlic has this stickiness to it. It makes everything just kind of stick together, and it's awesome. Now you could also use a tool. You could use a grater or something of that note to do that, but I happen to like, I'm just going to cut this in half. I also want to showcase, there's a germ, and I'll show it to the audience here first. There's a germ here, this white thing. If this is green, you get rid of it. So there's a lot of theory behind indigestion and the green germ that's in garlic. So I've often noted that when I don't take it out, which is very rare now, there's heartburn and indigestion involved with that. It also tastes off. So I want to slice this thin to go in here because I want people to notice the garlic. So now you're going to see how wobbly my table is. So again, the concept here is in the right world, we would let that just sit it out, dry it out, you know, and go from there. But we're going to let it merge its flavor with that there. So again, we take a taste test. We're looking for a balance of acidity, salt, knowing that it's got to go with pasta, which is somewhat bland. I'm going to add another teaspoon of salt, but it's good. It's fresh.
That's
it's
so
very
good.
It's very vibrant.
The tomato is so strong.
And we're not going to add all of that. We're going to add.
Good.
I think that's perfect because I really, it's almost like having pasta soup. So if you want to go ahead and stir that up, and then we can maybe throw in some more basil as a garnish, and then we'll put it right in here when you're done. I did pre-cook it. So the concept here was maybe you had leftover pasta. It was something raw, fresh. So thinking again how busy and time poor we are, right? Especially now that everything's reopened again and everybody's back to where we were before. It's the concept of what can I bang out really, really quick and then maximizing the nutrition of that. So again, whole wheat pasta would be the better choice. But at the same point, even farro would be a great choice. But having this done ahead of time, and then all you have to do is make that sauce really quick. And if I was going to make the tomato sauce, the way that I had it pre-blending, I would have let that sit for even a day and it would have been fine with me, you know, especially with the garlic on, and then blend it at the last minute because there's still a lot of untouched surface area once you blend it open. So, so that I would do a drizzle of olive oil on top. And then always, in my book, a little top salt, a little top pepper, and then the last thing I'm going to do to that is I'm going to take a really sharp sheep's cheese. And again, you could use something local. You could shave a goat's cheese on there, but I love, and you do not need a lot. So that's roughly a tablespoon for what would be 4 dinners, in my opinion, with a good salad. So that would be that. So I'm going to set that there. We'll grab at this after. So if anyone wants to take a picture, they can, and go from there. I'm going to wipe my board down, and then we'll do the other dish. All right, so the next dish is going to be the zucchini salad, the enchilada de zucchini. Now, normally I would do this on a mandolin, and I would be shaving these things paper thin, but we're going to do this for people who don't have a mandolin, okay? So I've already washed down this zucchini. We'll do a zucchini, we'll do a summer squash. We'll go ahead and grab a tray. We'll do that one.
You can often find mandolins in thrift stores.
Oh, yeah.
People get rid of them
Yep.
if they don't use
Who would do that, right? I've been nicked and I always say that a mandolin will take what it wants from you. If you don't treat it right, it will get you. So,
I mean, you can buy them relatively inexpensively.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not sure I want somebody's mandolin because it's one dish. You can't send a mandolin through a dishwasher. That's got to be a hand wash item because you'll change the tempering of the steel, right? And the blade is no longer sharp. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I got rid of my mandolin for 2 good reasons, right? So I'm not necessarily sure I would want to buy someone's used mandolin. But that's just
I
me.
tell you, they're barely used when you see them there.
Yeah, used once, right? So anyway, I'm going to slice through and I want to make some, and what I'll do is I'll slice and then you can just kind of scatter them wherever you want. So
Tip on cutting. You've done this before at a class I've taken.
don't cut your fingers off.
Vegetables versus herbs versus meat. Towards you, against you.
Knives never go straight down. There isn't a knife on this planet made to go straight down. A knife is a forwards and backwards motion, period. So you can either go forwards or you can go backwards. But the fact is there's movement and it allows the blade to slice. Even a butter knife can break through a chicken leg. You know what I mean? But you have to kind of have that motion. So the motion is forwards. It's because I'm using a small knife. Right? I'm sorry, backwards. Or you go forwards, not down. Right? Because down produces this really annoying thing in a kitchen called noise. Okay? And that gets under my skin like nothing else. So I like quietness. I like just super, super simple. And I have nice cutting boards and they sound beautiful, but this is the way to go. That's why I kind of like the smaller knife too. So we're there. We'll do this one. We'll go on top. I'm going to go back to this other knife. So a lot of people don't think of zucchini or summer squash as a raw vegetable, but when they're young like this and the seed pockets aren't huge, if you hand me one of those other zucchinis, yeah. There's a big difference. This is actually, I can tell you just from cutting that, it's actually pretty soft. I was surprised how soft it was. So there's a lot of flesh in here, but this is still going to be more tender the smaller the vegetable. This, though, surprisingly has a lot of use to it. Let me finish slicing this and I'll show you a cool way to slice this up. See, now I feel like I'm making noise. You just got me there.
Well, I was more interested in the technique.
The technique is forwards and backwards. So like if I'm using a large knife, what I want to do is there's a concept called towing the knife, which is bringing the knife, that one's got a bent tip, bringing the knife to the board and dragging it back. So it's the paper cutter in schools. But it's that forwards and backwards. So a lot of things happen. You don't bruise vegetables as easily when you go forwards and backwards. In particular, very important with herbs like basil that has a high oil. Tarragon, oregano, all those things, they benefit from not chopping them in that way. They benefit from a slicing motion. So even when I'm slicing, I'm doing this. You know, so if it says chopped herbs, I'm doing this across. And then if it says amends, sometimes I'll do this, but I'm moving it all over. And that's very rare that I actually do that anymore. So you get one of these monsters here, okay? The way that I handle that seed core is I go through and I quarter this, and then I fold it flat, and I take out that seed core. Do not get rid of that. It's great for soup, right? It's great for ratatouille. It's just not great for a stir fry because the most moisture is in this part of the zucchini. So again, quarter, and you get these really nice slices of zucchini that you can saute and do things with. And it's a really great way to use an older vegetable. I don't care if it's a patty pan squash, I don't care what it is, it's a great way to use it. So,
Curtis, do you have an opinion on those herb scissors that are like 3 or 4 blades together and you can do your...
I do. I actually, so my wife's after cerebellum surgery, I've looked at all sorts of accommodative kitchen tools. I love them for those reasons. I love the fact that it makes somebody who might not want to cook or be able to cook. And so all that is an 80-20 rule, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, if it provides independence and great food.
It doesn't bruise and affect the oils.
Of course it will. Yes, it will. Because you're chopping, you're squeezing, you're pushing, you know? It's no different than if you glide your hand over your other hand versus punching your hand. That's a very forceful thing, right? But if you just kind of do that, there's less impact on your actual tissue. So it's the same concept there. So, but yeah, I love anything that provides independence, anything that provides, you know, a degree of getting something done where the alternative choice is not getting it done is important. So I don't know if it does anything nutritionally. I mean, that's for the experts.
Say no.
Okay, so let's take this. Why don't you go ahead and salt, pepper, drizzle it with olive oil, and then we'll shave some cheese on it.
Okay.
I'll open up the cheese while you do that. Sorry, but that's just one of life's pleasures. That's like freshly brewed coffee or opening up a coffee bean bag. You're just like, yeah, we're going to get along really well. And then this is so this is raw. We've added salt. We're going to let it sit, and that's maceration. Okay, so we're just going to let that sit. We're going to let the salt pull out some of the liquid from the squash, and that's going to be part of our dressing. I'll do the mandolin so you don't. I've already been nicked and cut, so we're all good.
So you can eat the rind on that?
Yep. I eat rind on most cheeses. I'm not going to lie to you.
I do too, but I think a lot of people cut them off.
I lived in an area in France near Epoisse, and if you're familiar with Epoisse cheese, it's very stinky, stinky cheese. And 2 things are made in Epoisse, France: stinky cheese and breath mints. Seriously, there's a breath mint factory right next to the cheese factory. So it's a match made in heaven. So the goal here then is we've got this great vegetable. We hardly used any high value product, but that's going to go a long way in making our CSA share go further, you know, and that's a big part of this. And we see the opportunity for the young vegetable with its sugar and its tenderness to play with something that's been aged. So it's a kind of a, you know, a bookend type of thing. So
Summer squash is also super underrated, I think. It has so many different vitamins in
you
it.
set that down there. Absolutely. Thanks. And the benefit of cooking is you get Scooby snacks.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
I didn't realize I got one too.
Where did the baggies go?
Oh, in here.
And then we're going to be on to our last dish here, that steak tagliata. I know.
Wow.
Sorry, but that's going on with me. I got a date with this thing. So.
That looks amazing, right?
Simple. You know what I mean? Simple wins the game.
Salts. A lot of
Yeah.
the stores have all kinds. I don't really know what they're all for or what to do with them. What is the average home cook need for salt at home?
So I'm going to say from a flavor standpoint, and then I'm going to let Barrett talk about the nutritional aspects, and then I'll follow up if she doesn't have the one piece. I'll say I used just gave it away. I use kosher salt because it's a man-made. It's a pressed flake salt. Sorry me. If you're online, I'm really sorry. it's a pressed flake salt, and you can actually see and feel it as you season things. There's less salt per teaspoon or tablespoon because of the volume, the way the crystals are. Excuse me. I also finished with different salts. So I just brought kosher salt tonight, but for the most part, I finished with fleur de sel, which is a really high-end granular salt, or I'll use Malden salt or pink salt. So each one has a different thing. I tend to not cook with salt along the way. I tend to finish with salt. I'm also a cold food chef. I mean, I do garde manger stuff all the time. So I like things that make you salivate when you eat them, and salt does that.
So a pantry must-have, you would say kosher.
Kosher, yes.
So normal table salt is bleached, which is terrible and kind of unnecessary. And table salt is actually saltier than normal salt. So higher sodium. And I use pink salt because it's the most natural, I feel like. Or kosher, but yeah.
What's iodized salt?
There's iodine added to it.
Right. So my wife, when she was going through chemotherapy the first time, got a goiter. And that's the only reason we have iodized salt in the house. So, and I just can't break. I can't use it. I can't go there. I just don't like it. So I love her to death, but I'm kosher salt all the way or something else. So this is our bag of arugula from the pharmacy. So I like to just kind of tear it up. And this is my kind of arugula. This is that broadleaf. I forget the variety of it. But this is the arugula that I like. I like something that's kind of peppery. It's got a little age on it. It's not the light baby type that you get in a grocery store. I like this type of arugula here. And this is going to go super quick, painless. This is our steak. Now, normally I don't cook or I don't cut steak on a wooden cutting board, but we're making all sorts of exceptions today. So
Appreciate that.
I know. So again, this is top round. I got it. Thank you though. This is top round, and it's notoriously tough. It comes from the round, the hind section of a cow that gets a lot of exercise and it's moved, so it's pretty rich in iron. It's also notoriously tough. It's not something someone say, oh, I'm gonna have this beautiful round, top round steak, sliced paper thin. I don't even consider it London broil quality. But I played around with this for a reason. I was doing a sous vide class, and I just wanted to see how tender I could get it, and I was blown away by it.
Why can't you cut meat on a wooden board?
I don't like bacteria on my wooden board, so that's the only reason. It feels great. Wood feels awesome on a knife. I mean, that's fantastic. But then I just try to really minimize. The one thing I have going for me is this is a beautiful end grain maple board that has absolutely no gap in anything. And I'll turn around and I'll put lemon juice right on this when we're done off camera, and I'll scrub the heck out of it. So I've had this board for 15 years and I've only planed it down once, and it's kind of a baby of mine. But anyway, so steak tagliata is simply steak sliced. It means sliced steak.
Many of our viewers might not know what sous vide is. How would you recommend cooking this on the stove top if you didn't have that technique?
I would just go and grill a medium rare steak. I wouldn't go over medium rare because you want some of those juices to interact with the salts and the oils that we're going to put on the arugula. So however you want to do that, it doesn't even have to be steak. You could do salmon, you could do chicken, you could do turkey, whatever you want. It's really, in my mind, we're doing this at room temperature, but if you're going hot, it's almost like a salad TA in French cuisine, which is a cold base and a warm top. So you could do it whatever you want in terms of it. You just want to get a doneness that you like. I mean, I like medium rare. That's completely up to you, but I think in this cut, it's really important to get that that lower doneness for tenderness. I might have to slice some of these in half, or you guys are just going to have to go off camera and eat caveman style, cave person style. Hey, look, I'm politically correct. What can I say? I didn't want anyone to say something online because I'm sure I'm sure, right?
Big person.
Well, look, it is what it is, right? So there's no really rhyme or reason. It's just you want to make it so people can get it. And then just spread it out so you can show the doneness. And this is a really economical. So a lot of times when you're getting local meats, you're not like going to the store and saying, oh, I want to get a filet or I want to get a specific cut. They cut things in roasts, and sometimes it's really hard to figure that out. This is a great way just to get a big chunk of meat, cook it, slice it, and go to town. So so here we're back at it with olive oil, kind of the usual suspects. Olive oil, a good chunk of salt, especially on the meat because the meat is cold, it can take it. Along the arugula, lots of pepper to match the pepper flavor of the arugula. And I happen to really love black pepper, so like this is enough for 1 egg in the morning. I want to throw some of that pecorino cheese on there as well. Now, is there a nutritional benefit to hard cheeses over soft cheeses? I don't know if there is. I'm just asking.
I'm not sure. I wouldn't say so.
And then I actually thought I was going to get a lemon here, but so I had this wonderful lemon. I'm not going to lie. I love this product. This is like, if you're a cocktail maker, this is dreamy. This is a wonderful lemon juice. And it's not the normal lemon juice you find. This stuff, my wife once had a lot of her friends over and she was making Saint Germain's. So she spent the entire evening juicing lemons. Versus like, you could just go out and buy really high quality lemon juice. But anywho, and then I want to dabble some of this
Kind of glad there were only 5 again.
right? And then I think we're here.
For you, Dan?
No, to share a little.
Yes, he was just going to say to share. And then I would just
So the other thing I noticed, Chef, is you don't wash your knives when you're done. Tell us about that.
so I wipe them down. I sanitize them at the end of my shift for the most part, and then I have a sanitizing water there, so they get sanitized before they go back into anything. Knives never, in my mind, never go in a dishwasher, so they're always washed by hand. So that's just. You'll wash a knife once and know why you don't do it in a dishwasher, kind of a thing. So that's how I would look at it. So this is what we call kind of 6 o'clock. So the slices are fanned your way and everything just kind of looks that way towards you. But that's another really simple, easy dish. You know, this could be a great buffet. You could have your meat and your vegetables. You could have pasta, so you get a little bit of carb. You got another vegetable here. You know, you could start off with 1, 2, 3. You could add a couple more, like some dollops of ricotta on the summer squash and zucchini if you wanted to. But I like how the pecorino's here and in the tomato dish as well. And so, can we slide that right there and make room? We can get rid of the pamphlets. And then I love, just personally, I love vintage stuff. So, you know, I like things that just, they feel good. There's a tactile experience, you know, and I say it in the prep side of that, you know, there's just there's a feel. I'm going to put a pair of tongs out with that and a fork there. Yeah, you know, I actually never thought about that. I have napkins, so I have napkins. I'm prepared for a mess, but... Yeah, so that's that for me is just how you go through and you plan it out. So again, I forget what night we had this. Maybe it was Tuesday night. And then you just look at it and you look at what else do you have on hand and how do you maximize it. But for me, a lot of people get sticker shock with the CSA, and it's about how you treat the CSA every week. You know, we signed up for a share again this year, and after the second week, I changed the protocols in the house. You know, it was very important for me to not put any of those foods in a drawer, because somehow drawers, nobody opens a drawer in 2021, you know. But considering I'm paying for the share, I open the drawers, and it's like, all right, none of that stuff goes in a drawer. All the stuff that lasts forever goes in a drawer. And so for me, it's about, you know, maximizing your investment and making sure you enjoy the CSA the best you can. And that comes from proper planning. And that comes from understanding the longevity of vegetables, what things go together. There's a great book out there called Culinary Artistry. So if you don't know what goes with red cabbage, you can look up red cabbage and it'll show you perfect matches in bold print. It'll show you other things in regular print that go well with it. The book is called Culinary Artistry. It's by Dorn and Page, the two authors, Dornberg and Page. It's a great book. So someone who's inexperienced, they're going to get stuff in a share. Like, you're going to start getting kohlrabi. Like, what is kohlrabi? Like, who knows what that is? You know, the average person probably doesn't. Or what do you do with beets? And you're so sick of just pickled beets. You know, what do you do with that? And all of a sudden you look up beets and you find that other things go with beets, and you start playing around with things.
You could grate them on top of your zucchini there.
Yeah, raw beets are fantastic. They're terrible for staining your hands, but they're great. I mean, they're wonderful. And but again, it's just, you know, you're going to get stuff in a CSA share that you might not be familiar with.
Chef Curtis, you mentioned the sticker shock with CSAs, and I just wanted to make sure our viewers know that we are doing a CSA subsidy program called Fair Food Pricing. So you can get food at the pharmacy for cheaper than the sticker price. You can enroll in a CSA and subsidize a large portion or all of the cost of the CSA. So we're piloting 20 free shares this summer, and then next year we'll have the enrollment period.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
I hope everybody caught that.
Will we be able to share that information as well?
You put it in the chat.
Cool.
Perfect. The other thing I wanted to mention, in conversations with CDPHB, again, who's a wonderful sponsor in allowing us to be able to bring this to you guys tonight, but also to viewers at home, and having Charlie here and Curtis and Barrett. They actually have, and I will make it my mission by the end of this week to get the information out and available. They have a program on a platform that says you go to your pantry, you go to your fridge, and you put in, I've got A, B, and C,
Oh, I've heard of this.
and
Yeah.
it compiles that data and gives you suggestions.
That's great.
So I will make that available through Brittany. I will share it with Chef Curtis.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
I'll put it on our Facebook and our webpage as well. But I think that's a fantastic tool for anybody. You know, any night of the week that, you know, you've got a piece of beef, you've got a couple zucchinis, you've got a small thing of pasta in the pantry, and you're able to put that in quickly. So we'll
Great.
make that
That's
available.
cool.
Yeah.
No, I think the fair food pricing program is good. Now, is that available to anybody, or do you have criterias, or?
There's an application that you can apply.
Cool. Cool. I
Well,
think that's great.
And the benefit to it is, and I don't know if everybody can hear you, Brittany, which is why my loudness hopefully will help. The benefit is we have some programs for SNAP recipients, but not everybody who needs help meets that SNAP threshold. Am I correct? And fair food pricing is an application based on a number of different things, but income guidelines being predominant. And it doesn't mean you have to be, in terrible shape. It just means you have had to have bad luck even, and it could be helpful. So we'll be sharing that information. We'll be getting that out. Another very cool thing with collaborating with ADK Action and getting support from CDPHBs. So
Cool. So I'm open for questions.
What's the book you mentioned again?
It's Culinary Artistry. It's a kind of a gray and black book. It's on our webpage, I believe, under books. So if you go to Carriage House Cooking School, shop, it's there. It's just an Amazon link. It's nothing crazy. when I was the dean at New England Culinary Institute, every student had to have that book. It was because you're always so limited by your experiences, right? So if you never grew up with this, or the only thing you ever saw was coleslaw, then that's all you're really going to know unless you branch out. And the book just helps you branch out, which I'm assuming the way you described that program is very similar. You know, this is just from a very culinary standpoint.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it, but like I said, in conversations with representatives who are wonderful at CDPHP,
Yeah.
you know, it sounds like that's the case. Either way, it sounds like something that would be extremely helpful to individuals.
Yeah, because if you come here and you're looking for pea tendrils and there's no pea tendrils and you want a salad for dinner, right? But there's arugula, grab the arugula, go home, and if you have that book, you've got some matches that go with it, you know? And you can even get the book on your phone for that matter. And just, you know, learn to experiment. I always like the concept of buying something you've never used before once a week and just learn, you know? Practice. Pick up a skill, pick up a flavor note you've never known. Cook something different. There's so many beautiful food blogs out there and some great local cooking schools. But anyway, you know, there's so many things out there. And then the nutrition side of that, there are so many places to get good nutritional information. And I think the merger right now, I think the movement is towards combining flavor and cooking and nutrition. I see that more and more with younger people. It's really, really important. More so than when I was growing up. I mean, we still have canned asparagus, so I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't anymore, though. I just, for the record, I do not have canned asparagus anymore. Nor veg-all.
Or Spam.
Oh gosh.
Okay, I have made sushi with Spam in sushi class. So Spam is a very popular meat. So you gotta watch how you say that in the right crowd. Spam can be a knife fight. So I'm just letting you know if you're in Hawaii.
Charlie and I aren't eating Spam.
No, you don't have to. I don't eat it often. But I'm saying there's a lot of high-end sushi places in America that use Spam. Just saying. And if you're in Hawaii and you say you don't like Spam, 50% of the population is not going to like you. So, anywho, so that's that. So if you have no questions, I don't know if the chat's still open, the comments are still open.
Someone didn't have a question, but they said that they were getting a lot of kale in their CSA. Do you have any suggestions for what to do with a bunch of kale?
I love soup personally, but not in the summertime. I love kale salad.
Massage kale.
So there is a nutritional aspect of massaging kale, correct?
Yeah, it breaks
Yeah.
down the.
So it makes it accessible. So go into that a little bit. So a good kale salad to me, and there's a famous chef, Jonathan Waxman, now has the most Googled kale salad. I don't know if that's a Guinness Book thing or not, but anyway, it's a really popular kale salad. And it's a kale salad that is just really well massaged and chopped up. And it's got some Parmesan, like a little umami-based dressing with that and some seeds with it. It's a super, super simple salad, but I happen to love that. And strangely enough, one of the best salads I ever had was a simple kale salad with balsamic vinaigrette at a place in New Hampshire, like a little roadside place. It was amazing. But anyway, the component, what's the nutritional side of breaking that down? Like the massaging, because I always used to think, I don't massage my kale because I'm not taking it to the spa, but massaging is what? Crunching it up?
Yeah, you're basically just breaking it down. I know that it makes it less tough.
Yep.
Obviously. I don't know.
More,
Easier to digest.
I can't. It's easier to digest, but I can't think of the specific.
I think you access more of the nutrients.
There are cell walls in the kale, and then after you massage the oil in and let it sit, then it's easier to digest.
Yeah.
See, we need a mic back there too, right?
Guest mic.
Yeah. It does make us up. There's two types of kale too, so I'd be curious what kind of kale they get. Is it the Iranian or the black kale that's long and slender, like we had one of those in here, or that really curly, that big voluminous style kale. That's the one that I usually put in a salad. The other one I like to make wraps with. I like to use it with cooked chicken. Again, we just did Speedy's last night for our Facebook Live. I have leftover chicken and Speedy sauce. I could totally see that in a piece of that kale and just noshing on that. I also just like to walk into the fridge sometimes and grab it and just chew it as I'm walking through and doing other things.
It's actually in Speedy sauce. I wondered because I get it from best.
Well, my version, the best version, is very similar to this, but with sour cream and white vinegar. So I add white vinegar and sour cream, and it's very similar to the same aioli, but thinner. It's more of a pourable type dressing. The sour cream kind of loosens the texture up. It's really good.
It looked amazing.
Yeah, it was really good. So anyway, but that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, I could see something like that. You know, the kale too, we talked about with the zucchini and the 6 slices of zucchini, or the 3 slices and folding over. Like if you had meatloaf, just try something different, right? Put meatloaf in the center of some kale and wrap it and then bake it in that, you know, and you're getting a vegetable along with that meatloaf kind of a thing. You know, or wrapping a piece of salmon or a piece of fish or tofu and baking that, you know, and it just becomes a crust or an encasement, like wrapping it in potatoes. So, welcome.
Like enchiladas? Making it like enchiladas?
You could, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to look at, what is it, I mean, I know this isn't kale, but like, what is it? It's a leafy green, so what can it do, right? So is it one piece? Is it multiple pieces? Is it torn? So what can it wrap up? You know, could I take a piece of steak and arugula and put in here and roll it up, and then all of a sudden I've got a bite? That's kale. Maybe you blanch it first, you know, and maybe you shock it in cold water or just let it shock au natural and pat it dry. But then what is the functionality of that? So shape and texture plays a large part of that. Flavor. Some people just don't like it raw, but you know, I happen to love like raw cruciferous vegetables. I think they're great.
So tamales instead of corn husk, would they do?
I haven't done it, but yeah, functionally, yes, it can do that. Absolutely. You know, it can form a cone. I mean, again, this isn't, but it could form a cone for a chicken salad, or maybe you made hummus and you've got some hummus and you put in there with some sunflower seeds and, you know, fresh diced tomatoes or something like that. And all of a sudden you got a nice little beautiful hors d'oeuvre, right?
Hand roll.
Right. Or if it's Halloween, you got a nose. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Or you could hear the ocean, right? But whatever you want to do with it, it's just a matter of what does it look like? And this goes back to, you know, a lesson I learned in 6th grade in creative writing is, what is that? And write down the first 20 things that come to your mind and then pick out a pattern, you know, and most likely you're going to find that it's a flat surface, it's pliable. So, you know, what can you do with that? You can actually make, you know, I mean, it's no different than shredding, but this is called chiffonade in French cuisine. I just rolled it up. You could blanch that really quick. And again, this is cabbage, but just imagine that's kale. And all of a sudden now, you don't have a spiralizer, you have knife skills, and you've got a kale pasta that you toss with a corn crema, which the recipe is there. And you take crumbled pieces of freshly cooked corn and some other things, and you put on there, and you've got a vegetarian pasta dish, you know, without pasta. So you're not having the carbs or anything else like that. But that's a great way. I mean, for me, there's aeration in that, so it's attractive in that sense. You know, you could salt this and it could become a pillow for something else, maybe a seared scallop, or who knows, a cherry tomato that's been, you know, lightly salted. I mean, there's just so many things you can do with that. I mean, I love that concept of just exploring what something is.
For that dish, I was going to say you could use a spiralizer and make zucchini noodles instead of the
instead of the pasta. Yep, yeah. Absolutely. And they would just soften up with salt. You don't have to cook them in water. You don't have to cook them in a saute pan. You just soften them up with salt.
Yeah.
And again, the freshness, like when you eat this, and it's going to be fresh, it's going to be vibrant, it's going to be like alive compared to something hot. And I think we all eat foods that are overly hot. And in the summer, I crave simplicity. So then the kale, that's where I would be. I would be, you know, somewhere in the wrap or the pasta world. Or just Bugs Bunny eating a piece of kale, walking down the road. So, any other questions? Wrapping it, bada bing, bada boom, done. Thank you, thanks again. Thanks for making this happen. It's always fun. So, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I didn't really prepare a go-to, similar to not having prepared an opening. But again, a huge shout out to Chef Curtiss, to Barrett, obviously Charlie, to you, who they can't see, from Grow Trends, to Brittany and the 80K Action crew. This is an amazing venture, and it has been for a couple years. It's turned my pharmacy PH world upside down and around and back again. and put some vigor into this store, into starting at Cornerstone as well. And again, it'd be remiss if I didn't put a huge thank you out to CDPHP for their generous support. We have other sponsors for other things that we've done, but one of their big things has been for outreach and education, and this falls into that purview. So thank you.